Welcome to Mortgages and More, your go-to podcast for the latest insights in the mortgage industry. Join us as we dive into expert advice, unveil actionable tips, and learn how to empower the next generation of homebuyers. Get ready to elevate your knowledge and make those property dreams a reality. Let's get started.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. We are in season 2, episode 3 of the Mortgages and More podcast.
Whoa.
Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
Real excited today to have Bill Rice join us from Kaleidico. Kyle, you and Bill have not yet had a chance to meet. These are like super fun episodes when either of us gets to meet, cool new people, new companies, new products. And so we are off to the races. And Bill, welcome to our little podcast.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. You guys are getting bigger and bigger in my social media feed, so I'm gonna have as many questions for you guys as how you do that as you have for me.
Bill, we're so excited to have you, and I personally love interviewing people that I don't know because I don't have to pretend to be interested. I'm very interested because I don't know who you are yet, and so what I do know is that you have a company called Kaleidico. And part of Brian and I's vision for this podcast is we want to introduce the mortgage space to cool people, cool technology, things that we believe can help grow and scale their business. And so I would just love to know, like, what is it that Kaleidico does? And then I want to dig into kind of the backstory of how we got here, and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Kaleidico is kind of got an interesting backstory, I think, for the mortgage industry. So I came out of, and I'll try to make this as short as possible. Well, let me tell you what we do today. So what we do today is essentially we characterize ourselves as a lead generation agency. So we truly allow mortgage lenders, mortgage brokers to have a turnkey mortgage marketing solution that actually generates leads. That can be everything from, in the true sense of an agency, we do everything on behalf of our clients. We're building assets for their long-term sort of growth and future. So that's everything from websites to doing the actual lead generation marketing, much like a lead generator would do, except you don't buy it on a per lead basis. You actually buy it as a marketing engagement. So that's kind of what we do today.
Okay.
But that's not where we came from. So when I first got into the mortgage industry in 2000, I was part of a small team that was doing something pretty innovative. And up until maybe Figure and Spring EQ, which we actually had a little bit of a hand in as Kaleidico, nobody had kind of done since. And that was to offer a 100% automated unconditional HELOC offer on the web, and that was Deep Green Bank. We blew up that business. It was a fun business in 2000 because I tell this to people that they can't believe it, but back in the day, we actually had a video that showed people how to fill out a web form because it was so weird and unusual to come to a website, fill out a web form with 20 pieces of information, and then to get back an unconditional loan for a HELOC. And we would actually then wire the money. So fast forward that a little bit, I helped to sell that ultimately to private equity. And then I left there and went to Quicken Loans. And a combination of Deep Green Bank and Quicken Loans showed me like a really big problem in the industry. So along about 2004, 2005, when I built Kaleidico, internet leads were still in the relative infancy. And these large call center operations that were starting to emerge, think New Century, American Home Mortgage, IndyMac Bank, were starting to kind of do this Quicken Loans model where they're just buying tons and tons of leads, and they were firing them into call centers, but they didn't have any technology. They were literally, when we were back at Quicken Loans, and this is what kind of was part of the inspiration for what Kaleidico would become, originally anyway, is they sat in a command center with spreadsheets as these things came in, and they hand doled out leads manually. And so, and again, one of the inspirations was guess where all the loan officers were? They were sitting around the desk of the people that handed out leads, and they were not at their desk taking leads. So they were, because there's no technology, they were trying to make relationships like loan officers do and beg for leads, right? So anyway, left Quicken Loans, started Kaleidico originally as a lead management software company. Actually coined the phrase. If you look at Wikipedia, I wrote the original article to define lead management, because I kept having conversations to say that, hey, you don't need a CRM, you need a lead management system. Like they're not your customers yet. So we went head to head. Shorten the story a little bit. We went head to head with Leads 360. We had all the big guys. We had all the big call centers, because that's what I knew. And Leads 360, now Velocify, had all the little guys. And then came along. We were both going to venture capital at the same time. They ultimately got it from Rustic Canyon. We did not. And then 2007 happened and everything melted down. And all of my customers in 60 days came back as bankruptcy notices. So I had a no shit moment. We were bootstrapped. I had to figure out what to do. So we did a quick pivot and became what we are today. And at the time, we were sort of this little niche business where we taught people how to put a lead generation company inside of their thing. We didn't know what to call it. We didn't call it consumer direct back then, but that's essentially what we were doing. We're doing turnkey consumer direct operations. And then post-COVID, like everybody moved to that model. So lenders were coming to us and like, hey, we got this little brand. We're going to try consumer direct. We're going to spin out this and spin out that. And so that's become kind of our meat and potatoes, is we can, again, having learned from that first experience, we can go from the big guys, which we do have some of the big guys who have got these consumer direct brands, or we're helping them do consumer direct within that large organization, to smaller folks like mortgage brokers who are coming out on their own and want to learn how to generate their own leads. And now, once again, rarely in our almost 20 years of history have we been in the right spot at the right time, but now all of a sudden we got the FCC targeting lead generation, the actual guts of the market. And we're kind of like perfectly positioned to say like, oh, if you can't buy them anymore, or if they're going to take away your triggers, it's probably about time to make lead generation a core competency, and we can teach you how to do that and make it affordable to get in the game. So so that's our long origin story.
Wow.
I think so Kyle, the power of what Bill described to me is, and Bill, you answered the question I was going to ask, which is kind of who's the target? I think the target is everybody, right?
Yep. Yeah.
You essentially are bringing expertise that the biggest of the big, the most successful lead gen call center platforms utilize. You're bringing it and making it available to everybody.
Yeah, we've done a good job of trying to, and this is over time, right? Because at first we were kind of like most agencies, we tease all the time, we do anything for money, but over time we've really productized down these things. So we do truly have, like when I do a presentation, it is a tight, clean product that starts affordable and can scale with you. But it does give you that lead generation capability as a core competency that you own. That's kind of the unique piece of the agency, is like you're not buying it on a per lead basis. You're not buying a platform that's licensed to you, and the moment you stop paying for it, it just sort of disappears. You're truly building an asset inside your organization with us.
Bill, how do you, because in the marketing world, right, everybody loves to lump everyone into the same thing. Yep. Oh, great, you're a marketing agency. Cool. I already know a lot of those guys.
Right.
So we know that that's not true. Yep. And so can you kind of unpack, like, what is it that sets you apart and has created this kind of unique niche for you guys?
Yeah. I think, one is we've been in the business for a long time, right? So I've seen full cycles, and my team, a lot of them have been with us for a long time, have seen full cycles. So we've seen the mortgage meltdown. We've seen, rates skyrocket. So when rates just went crazy, again, unprecedented, but we'd seen that pattern before. We'd seen things like that before. And now as we kind of move into this new, like, emerging mini refi boom. Like I've seen this before. Like I say all the time, this is like 2004 in my history and in our team. So I think that experience helps us a lot, because when we package the marketing that we deliver, one, we look through everything with a frame of lead generation. So our ultimate KPI is how many leads can we generate for you based on, you know, the marketing engagement that you're investing in. So that's important, because most agencies will just do work and you pay them for the work, and like hopefully that yields.
Yeah.
We're always talking about leads. We're always thinking about leads. And then you layer onto that the mortgage experience that we have. So one, that alleviates your compliance concerns. You don't have to hold our hand. You don't have to tell us where to kind of run our campaigns. We've got some collective experience there. And then I think the last thing is really strategy, because we've seen this before. We're always ahead of like we know what products are emerging. Like we're already building for that. We're already positioning campaigns for that. We're already testing things to go after ARMs. We're already like experts in HELOCs, right? And we know what a cash out refi is. We know what happens to VA loans, you know. And so there's a lot of, again, expertise there that we're already positioned. So we're even though we're an agency, we're kind of a strategic partner as well.
Yeah, Brian, I've several more questions.
Yeah, let it rip.
I might just take over the episode.
Please.
But so Bill, in all my experience, like we love as the consumer to blame the leads.
Yep.
Right? These are bad leads.
Yep.
Right? You suck as a company. Right? So now what I know that you also know that the consumer doesn't like to take ownership of is there's really no such thing as a bad lead. To me, there's bad follow-up.
Yeah.
And so where I watch this fail for a lot of companies is they just assume this will be pretty easy. We'll send an email out when the lead comes in, and then a couple days later, like we'll follow up again. And then 2 weeks in, nothing's happened, and now they're mad at you guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do y'all have systems in place that train them in like what that follow-up should look like and how consistent it needs to be and all that good stuff?
Yeah, I mean, we take probably a little bit more ownership of that. So one of the things that you know, when you asked us like, hey, what's the differentiation? I think part of that is, of course, we know mortgage. So hopefully, unlike just hiring a random agency out there, or hiring sort of the low cost provider, we're ideally going to places and, you know, working with keywords, because you know, we use kind of all the regular stuff, right? We use SEO, we use PPC, Facebook and Google Ads, we use email. So we use the standard stuff, but we've got some experience to kind of know how to generate a quality lead. We're watching that. We have our own KPIs, our own dashboards. We're watching that with you in a collaborative way. And then the other thing is, before we even get started, we have a conversation. And again, this is probably a little bit of a differentiator. We love talking to loan officers, sales directors, regional VPs, because we understand what they do, right? And so you do have to understand, you know, what their environment is. Like, what systems do they have? What technology do they have?
Sure.
What are they familiar with working, right? We can just toss any lead in there. What's their experience? That sort of thing. So have a little bit of that. And then we try to do our best to kind of give them what they need and make sure everything's set up before we start spending their dollars. And then from there, unfortunately, we're not perfect here because we can only do so much.
Sure.
So we guide and we recommend. This is where we've often got recommendations for partners and that sort of thing. But once we go into that sales organization, we're going to have a lot of conversations with you. We're probably going to share a lot of experiences. We're going to talk about some of the best practices you mentioned. And we're going to make some recommendations, but that's not a service that we offer. So that sales optimization process, which I think is becoming more and more important, it is not there. So that we start to recommend partners, we recommend solutions, we recommend people to talk to. But you're right, it's everything. It's 50% of the equation, as I always say. It's like, hey, I can hand you a lead, but we're not done yet. And so when things don't close, you know, there's 50% on us and 50% on you, and we gotta kind of figure it out to make it work. But it's always a constant struggle for sure, because they're not ready to close when we hand them to you. And it's getting worse because the internet's all fractured. Consumers go to 100 different places. It's almost gotten too easy for them to become a lead. So yeah, it's a challenge for sure.
What would be a couple tips that you could give, like, for the companies that are doing some form of like paid lead gen right now, and there is that gap between the lead comes in and getting them to actually communicate? Can you give a couple best practices to kind of help shrink that gap?
Yeah, for sure. So I believe in the 80-20 rule, and probably 80% of increasing your conversion probably happens in the first few moments. And I'll start with a misconception. One of the biggest misconceptions that probably actually hurts your leads is we just got to pound the hell out of that lead with the phone as soon as we get it. What I always recommend is, again, the super step, the simple step. If you do this, you'll probably increase your conversion by 80%. Is as soon as you get that lead, once it's delivered in real time, it goes into your system. The very first thing that happens instantaneously is a text message goes out and says, I got your lead. I'm taking a look at it. And that's what I call stop the shop, right? It's like that confirmation from Amazon. Got your order. It's on its way. We're working on it. And then the second thing is follow up with an email, again, instantaneous, that says, hey, this is who I am. I'm going to be, contacting you soon. Here's all my contact information. So if you never need to get a hold of me throughout this process, I'm your person. And here's what it is. In that original text message, you should also, and again, systems can be different, but you should also tell them, hey, I'm going to be calling you, and I'm going to be calling you from this number. Because then the third step is to, within that next, and again, this is where you can give yourself a little space, because loan officers have a lot of other things going on than making instant calls. People forget that. That gives you like 20 minutes, right? Hey, I'm going to call you in the next 20 minutes. I'm taking a look at this. I'm with a client, whatever you want that messaging to be. And then they're ready for your call. They got your phone number, and then hopefully that completes the cycle. But that little three-step process happening mainly with automation in the first few seconds. Yeah, we're an e-commerce Amazon nation, right? It's like, confirm the order, tell me that you got it, the right thing, and it's on its way, right? So
I suspect too that what you just described, that cadence, gives the consumer an opportunity to say, whoa, I didn't mean to do that. Right. Yep. So they can either respond to the text or respond to the email, or hopefully what happens, because I know how this would work for me as a consumer. Yeah, I filled out the form, but I really wasn't ready to talk to anybody.
Yep.
So what I would typically do in that case is my text back would be, hey, don't call me in 20 minutes. How about next Wednesday at 4:00? We talk. And now, boom, so I think it's brilliant that kind of cadence and sequence. Because this whole speed to lead and pound the consumer with calls is just annoying for everybody.
Yeah, I think it gets lost in that whole speed to lead thing, which I can't remember who had invented it, but like it was genius at the time. It's the right message, but the technology has changed, right? I always tell people that, like, we've killed the phone, like for good or bad, marketing, regulators, whoever you want to blame it on. We've killed the phone, so it's not effective as a first outreach. You got to switch to text message. We're probably getting ready to beat that up again.
Yeah.
And that could be problematic, but the email is always consistent. Yeah. Anyway, so the long story is just let the consumer knows what's going on. And like you said, we get anywhere from, depending on the message, anywhere from 40 to 60% like response rate out of that first email or that first text message. Huge. And they're saying something.
Yeah.
So, and that's the second piece. You actually have to like listen to the customer, like read it. Don't just ignore it and do your own thing. Like, because then you have all kinds of opportunities. You can schedule an appointment. Hey, we're not ready yet. Let's get them. So you drop them into a drip. There's all kinds of like intelligent things you can do, but you got a response. Like, what's going on. So
I have one final question and I don't know that anybody knows the answer to this yet, Bill. So obviously, you just do the best of your ability, but do you already have an idea of like with what's coming out with the FCC about kind of cracking down on the way, mortgage people are beating down the doors of these leads, and like, is this, and how is this going to change the landscape of what lead gen looks like moving forward?
Yeah. Great question. I'll give you my theory. So the big guys are going to figure it out with technology. They're going to figure out some mechanism where they can still sell leads multiple times and be compliant. So I think they'll figure it out. But I think instantaneously, it's going to affect lenders and it's going to affect consumers in this way. One, you can figure the average lead is probably sold anywhere from 3 to 5 times. So this FCC ruling alone, so the one-to-one consent, you could just do the math. It's going to cut leads, by a 4, in 4 or 5 parts, right? So you're gonna lose a significant number of leads in the system. Triggers are right behind that. I've got lenders calling me now, like, holy shit, like, you guys don't help us with triggers, but like, we're getting ready to lose this whole division in our mind, and we're trying to strategically. So there's another like huge amount of leads that are coming out of the system. In the short term, lead providers are going to have to compensate for that. So guess what? All your leads just went up double or 3 times. So again, like, you're gonna have to figure something out, right? So there's a couple things that I think. Oh, and by the way, the consumers are also going to get hurt because they're going to have to go to more and more sites, because half of these leads, we know when we hand out leads as a lead generator 3 or 4 times, probably only 1 to 2 of those lenders ever make a call, right? So all of a sudden they're not getting callbacks. So then I think what lenders have to do, one, you have to assess your risk. You have to say, okay, who am I buying from? How much am I buying? How much of my spend is going to buy? You got to figure out what your lead thing is, because you got to feed the loan office, you got to feed the origination machine, figure out that math, and then you got to hedge the risk, right? So you either got to figure it out on your own, do your own lead generation, look for some alternative sources. But if I was a lender of any size right now, I'd be looking at my lead flow, and then I would hedge. Now, the nice thing is we're getting ready to walk into a refi. So all of a sudden people are going to be knocking on our doors again. That's going to help us a little bit, and that might soften the blow. But I don't know. In my mind, it's a math equation. You got to do some high speed hedging and financial math here.
Well, we may have to have you back on when all that flushes out and we know exactly what it looks like and what the new laws are, because that's going to send some people into weird places for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's we live on this, all the main players, mortgage, insurance, solar. Like, this isn't a single thing. There's a lot of industries where we've outsourced our marketing in a really efficient way, and all of a sudden FCC is saying that, when lenders complete, you win. Like, they just killed that.
Used to be that way.
Right.
Wow.
So so it's gonna be a big deal, but we'll figure it out. We always do.
See.
Yeah.
Of course we will.
Yeah.
Right.
Bill, how do people get a hold of you that want to get connected to what you guys are doing?
Yeah. So Kaleidico.com is where you can see we do a lot of, like, we've got 90-day mortgage marketing plans, and so we got a lot of resources on that. And then I'm really active on LinkedIn, so feel free to reach out and connect with me. I do videos, I do all kinds of posts to
Awesome.
get similar content. So that's probably the best place to find me, is LinkedIn.
Awesome.
We'll be sending people your direction.
I appreciate it. You guys are doing a great job. I love what you're doing. And
thanks, man.
I think you guys said it, or somebody said it, but every loan officer's got to become a personal brand in this new world. And so you're teaching them how to do that. And that's their first step.
Absolutely. Brian, I've talked way too much, so why don't you?
No, man, I love learning from both of you. But Bill, thank you so much for spending some time with us. And as Kyle said, I do think there's a 200 level class that we need to be doing as a follow up as all these regs kind of come in. So that's a cue for the audience to stay tuned. I think Mr. Rice will be back on our little.
That's right.
Yeah, I love it. You guys keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you. Thanks, Bill.
Okay,
See ya.